how's the pretty girl doing? Hello, how's the... welcome back, maybe? Before I begin today, I want to acknowledge something about the last video. So I spent the last video talking about a 7 ripoff and neglected to mention that the partner in Resurrection is the Lust Killer in 7. Don't worry, the person responsible for that blunder was dealt with accordingly. Anyway, welcome to episode 1 of the Slash-a-thon, the show where I, the titular depressed cinephile, take a look at and reevaluate a few slasher films with you guys, of course. We're going to group these films with a common theme, and, well, she's not a prop. Oh, she's a little angry. Because she's relevant to the video, because today's theme is animal attack slashers. But Andrew, wouldn't animal attack slashers be considered monster movies and not slashers? Well, maybe if you waited 2 minutes for the video to start, you would understand. So for our first film today, we're heading to the state of Texas to take a look at 1982's Mongrel. What, you never heard of Mongrel before? Well, I don't blame you. But I should point out that this is the screen debut of Mitch Pileggi, who most of you probably recognize as Agent Skinner from the X-Files, but I remember him fondly for his Criminal Minds appearance, because he accurately portrays what it's like to drive in LA.
And I'm telling you, if I lose that commission, it is coming out of his college fund.
Okay, what other background info do I have on Mongrel? Oh, that's it. Okay. Let's get to the movie. So our setting is a boarding house, and this guy, his name is Ken. He's just moving into the place. Oh, and I hope you love the boarding house set, because we ain't leaving it for the entirety of the movie. Like here, look at this.
Besides, I don't know where to go.
Well, there's a lot of places.
So let's go to one. I don't want to eat alone.
Well, as long as I can get back here real quick.
Sure.
Alright guys, pop quiz. Guess what the next shot of the movie is. Is it A, at the restaurant with these two? B, these two heading to the restaurant? C, these two heading back from the restaurant? Or D, tits on a skee ball machine? Make your guesses. Waiting. Okay. If you guessed A, I don't know why you would have guessed that based on the answers that I gave you, but if you did, you would be wrong, because the answer is D.
As long as I can get back here real quick.
Sure.
Why even include this conversation at all if the literal next shot is just Ken hanging out in the living room? When I first watched this, I thought my version was cut for some reason, but no, they just can't get another location. It's called subverting audience expectations, liberal. Back to the cheapness of the production. I should note that this is a regional horror film, which essentially means that this is a horror movie made outside of the Hollywood system. Essentially, you make a cheap horror movie, and because horror films sell, you hope that you can at least make your money back through video or theater distribution, or at best, you can make it to Hollywood. Most of them didn't. Alright. So if we're spending all our time at the boarding house, hopefully we get some cool characters to hang out with. Here, I love Mitch Pileggi. Let's see what he's all about.
Here, lick these tomatoes.
Well, that's real nice. Oh, kind of delicate.
Oh, what about this guy?
9 o'clock in the morning.
You need something?
Oh. You know, maybe I shouldn't expect much from the guy who looks like an aspiring serial killer who was too weak to do that, so he became a pedophile instead. These two don't really do anything. The only thing notable about this guy is that he is constantly the first to the scene asking what's going on.
What the hell's going on up here?
Hey, what's the problem?
Now what?
Hey, man, what's going on?
Jerry, what the hell are you...
There's also these two girls. This is the hot one, and she's the not hot one. At least this guy has some character, but he's just a loser nerd, so not exactly fun to be around. I think the movie's trying to make him lovable in like a Dewey from Screen kind of way, but he's just way too neurotic to be fun. And trust me, I'm neurotic as hell, but this guy just sucks. And if you don't believe me, look at this. Close the goddamn fridge! Aldo Ray is also in this movie. Aldo Ray is like a Cameron Mitchell of Best of the Worst fame. Basically, an old actor who, in the twilight of his career, would star in anything and anything at all. Now, he has plenty of experience playing some despicable characters, playing a wife-beating serial killer in Terror on Alcatraz and a kidnapping serial rapist in Evils of the Night. But in Mongrel, he plays what might be his most heinous character of all. A landlord. The only kind of likable character in the movie is Ken, but I think that's more because he's the only normal one with ample screen time, which is bound to push him over the top. All our characters and setting are out of the way. Now, let's get to the real meat and potatoes here. If you like yapping, Mongrel is the movie for you. Most of this movie is just two characters talking to each other. Sometimes they switch it up and give us three though, so that's exciting. And pro tip, if you're not going to have more than 3 people talking on screen at a time, maybe eliminate some characters so most of them don't fade into the background. Just a thought. The conversations aren't interesting either. They range from, this is exactly how I feel, to, this is what I'm going to do. Literally, the first 30 minutes of this movie is just watching 2 of any of these characters go, what do you think of the new guy? I think he's great. Or, I think he sucks. Or, I think he's... monotony's broken! Oh yeah, this movie's called Mongrel, so there's a dog in it. And Mitch Pileggi shoots it dead. Dude, you're like 30 feet away and there's people all over the place. I do not believe that is proper firearm safety. This guy, of all people, I expected to follow that.
You killed my dog! Son of a bitch.
Oh no, not my dog. I fucking love that thing so fucking much. Alright, so Neurotic Guy is really affected by this incident. That's all you really need to know right now. Back to some more boring conversations between unlikable characters. Oh, but sometimes we get cool transitions. I hope that you hated that, because nothing like it ever happens again. One thing I should mention is that the lighting is actually pretty good. There's some dream sequences that look really nice. And every scene in Mitch Pileggi's room has some nice gels shooting through. You did it, Mongrel! Congratulations! Oh, and then the only likable character dies. Why? Everyone else sucks. Like, why would you kill off the one guy everyone doesn't mind? I don't want to spend the rest of the movie with these assholes and these nobodies. It's not even like a giallo where all the characters may be assholes, but it's at least a murder mystery, so we as the audience have to piece together what happened. It's just a prank gone wrong here. Why am I supposed to care what happens beyond this point? You just made a boring movie even more boring. I guess the filmmakers understood this too, because they're now finally deciding to spice this up with slasher-style kills. An hour into the movie. Oh, it's dog shit. Don't you love entirely POV kills where there's clearly no contact between the killer and victim? Hey, can you pretend you're being attacked? We're gonna squirt some ketchup on you and shake the camera a bunch. What the fuck is this, found footage? Oh, and I have to wonder, is this supposed to be a mystery as to who's doing the killing here? Because it's pretty obvious if you're paying attention. So I'm gonna show you a few clips of a specific person, and then you guess who did it.
Keep that thing away from me.
Say, you really shouldn't make fun of him. He was attacked by a dog when he was a kid.
Accident. You killed them, all of them!
What a mystery. Well, Aldo Ray's pissed that somebody else is getting in on the whole killing thing. So he's gonna put his foot down.
I want you all out tomorrow.
Hey man, actually, I do not believe that is legal.
Proper notice. My shotgun's all the notice I need.
Okay, so most of the tenants are getting ready to move out, but where's Mitch Pileggi? Oh no, he got killed off screen. How strange to kill off the only two characters with any character first. And also, how strange to kill the asshole guy off screen. But you know what isn't strange? Actually, well, I guess in like real world context, this would be like super strange. Fuck it. The killer reveal is cool. Like, hey, that's pretty creepy. This fucking nerd manages to kill these two, and they're really great kills. Nah, I'm just kidding. They happen off screen. This guy, who already left, for some reason he comes back, and then he dies too. What do you guys prefer? Off-screen kills or shake the camera a bunch? At least he gets impaled. That's something. And because the movie realizes it needs to wrap up, the hot girl comes back, because, you know, we need to get our final girl chase scene. Wait, the bathroom has two entrances? What? That's stupid. Imagine going to take a shit in the fucking boarding house where 8 other people live and forgetting to lock the other door. She goes to the basement, and he walks slowly up to her. And just when you think, who am I kidding? We all know she's not gonna die.
You okay, lady?
Yep, Aldo Ray saves the day. What a great guy. Also, he said he's using a shotgun on anyone on the premises, so I got some bad news for you, girl. Mongrel is boring. It might seem like I sped through this one, and that's because I did. I'm not exaggerating when I say most of this movie is just mundane conversations, which is a shame because there's some decent horror elements here. The killer reveal is satisfyingly creepy, and the gel lighting is always welcome. It's just not enough. Structurally, it's just so odd. Why kill the audience surrogate without a suitable replacement? I just lost all interest in the movie after Ken died. Why would I want to stay and watch nameless characters, 2 assholes, and this loser? I could go on and showcase the shitty acting and the strange character relationships, but why? What's the point? We don't need to stare at 2 people talking in a room while I give voiceover explaining why it's boring. Wait, that's kind of the whole point of my channel, huh? This is from 1982, but it doesn't feel like that. Instead, this screams 70s exploitation, and not in a good way. I'll end with this. Mongrel is one of those cheap horror movies that makes its way onto a 50-movie DVD pack for $10. And it costs $10 because they all fucking suck. So, moving on to our next film. I'll be right back. What? I accused him of doing something bad, therefore I have every right to send him to a torture prison. That's the way it works now, right? Anyway, for our next film, we're going to head a few states northeast into Utah to take a look at 1987's Berserker. So we begin in... Wait, look at that. Are you guys seeing this? The grain structure. It looks incredible. Could it be? From the 16mm original camera negative. Sorry, guys. Some of us are bisexual. Some of us are homosexual. And I am 16mm asexual. Oh, God. That rough grindhouse feel just really gets me going. God, if ISIS shot all of their beheading videos on 16mm, I would consider myself a fan. What? You think this is an insulin pump? You think that is the only thing keeping me alive after my body decided to kill my pancreas? No, this is pumping 16mm filgrain straight in my veins because I constantly need a fucking fix! Okay, enough of the 16mm jerk off. Let's get back to Berserker. So we start with this happy old couple. They're like, oh, I love you. And the other one's like, oh, I love you too. And they're like, oh, isn't this a beautiful place too? And that's that. Thank God. I hate seeing people happy. I just can't bear it. Okay, guys, let's do an over-under for this segment. Over-under 10 bear puns. If I hit the over, I'll do a shot. If I hit the under, I'll do a shot. I'm an alcoholic. Let's meet our teens. So we have this guy, he's kind of a nerd. And then this guy, he's just an asshole. The other teens? They all right, let's go back to the asshole guy, because I just want to point out how much of an asshole this guy really is.
I don't know. I mean, we just stood there.
He's literally the only one drinking, and he's the driver. And then he throws a tantrum and assaults the campground owner because the cabin he wants is already rented?
No, I don't have a reservation. I never needed a reservation. Why should I have enough? Hey, listen, old man, I just drove 75 miles. I've been coming here for years. I'm hot, I'm tired, I don't want a campsite.
Like, what the fuck is this dude's problem? Why are you friends with this man? He seems unbearable to be around.
We want the sergeant place.
Dude, shut the fuck up! Oh, and instead of going to a different cabin that isn't rented, he goes to the place he wanted to anyway. So if this guy is willing to throw an entire temper tantrum and then goes to the place anyway after being told it's already taken, this must be the best cabin on the grounds. Like, I'm expecting just top tier amenities. And, oh, it's a single room and two of them have to sleep on the floor. Fantastic. I should point out at this point just how distractingly cheap this movie is. Like, I've already shown you the cabin, but even before we really get going, we can see that the production value is super low. Like here, look at this scene.
Hey, good to see you.
I'm sure the director was asking his friend, hey, can I shoot a scene in your house? And the friend was like, nah, you can use my driveway though. Another thing I should point out is, like Mongrel, this is also considered a regional horror film, which means that the budget is going to be super low. But unlike Mongrel, which makes use of its unbearably bland conversations to reach feature length, Berserker realizes, hey, why would I need to pay for a location when I could just have characters wander around in the woods all night? More on that later. What this movie lacks in budget, though, it makes up for it in one category. Homoerotic montage. So, set to some music that a 14-year-old named Kyle puts on after he gets grounded. We get some dudes being dudes, just getting each other all wet, riding ATVs in suggestive positions, and then to top it all off, we get this. You don't practice what you preach. Just a social disease. Wait, does that mean this movie's woke? Oh, fuck. Because I don't decide if a movie's good or not based on, like, the writing or, like, the cinematography or the editing or, you know, any of those pesky technical aspects. No, I arbitrarily decide whether a movie is good or not based on the amount of minorities or gay stuff in it. And no minorities are to be found, so thank God for that. But I spy gay shit, therefore woke, therefore bad. God, I wish I had no shame and could be a right-wing grifter, because that shit would be so easy. But instead I have to have, like, morals and empathy. So, since this is a woods slasher, we get a campfire scene where they tell a spooky story. And of course, since it's a horror movie, whatever is in the story is going to be lurking in these woods. Let's see who our villain is.
The Vikings were ferocious warriors. The most feared of these ancient pirates were those that not only fought with a bloodlusting frenzy, but were also known to eat the flesh of their human victims. They were called Berserkers.
Wait, what? Viking shit? In Utah? They're like polar opposite sides of the world. Whatever, movie. You do you. I just have one request. Can something happen, please?
Well, Mr. Boy Scout, I've got a question for you.
Shoot.
Where does one, you know...
Guys, something is about to happen. And because the movie also knows that something needs to happen, instead of her pissing somewhat close to the cabin, she walks 5 miles into the fucking woods to take a piss. Like, where the hell are you going? Not here. Not here. Definitely not here. Women being indecisive. Am I right, boys? I mean, like, come on. Does a bear shit in the woods? Hey man, your girlfriend said she was gonna take a piss and she's been gone for 3 hours. Shouldn't we?
Hey, man, turn it off!
Oh, thank God. One of them's finally going to... Oh, never mind. Well, at least something is finally happening. What follows is actually pretty interesting to discuss. The film cuts between both the sex and death scenes, showcasing the most visceral life experiences at opposite ends of the spectrum. What's also interesting is the connection between sex and death that the slasher genre is famous for. Started by Halloween and popularized by Friday the 13th, the have sex and die trope is probably my least favorite of the slasher conventions, but it is an important one. While I think the simplest explanation is correct, that being, these movies need nudity, and how else would you have teens separate from the group to be killed off, it does lead to plenty of accusations that these films are misogynistic. And in a way, they're right. Funnily enough, slasher movies are actually pretty conservative politically. All the characters who partake in what may be considered immoral actions are the ones who suffer, and the only one who can rise up against the threat is the innocent virgin. Come on, kids, you want to do drugs and have sex? Then Jason, or Michael Myers, or the fucking Berserker is gonna come after you. The only way to be safe is to be a goody two-shoes, and comply. And all this can be blamed on Halloween. Fuck you, Halloween. Black Christmas is so much better. Also, I pity the poor teenager who rented this from the video store, hoping to see some tits. He gets past this scene and thinks he's getting blue-balled. He's like, for fuck's sake. But then this happens. He's like, all right, let's get this party started. Oh my God. And that kid grew up to be Ted Bundy. Okay, so she discovers the body of one of the old people in the beginning and then just starts running through the woods for some reason, even though her boyfriend is right there. Let's just get to it. We all know what's coming. And all the screaming has finally alerted the others to come out and join the fun. Just not this girl's screams for some reason. All right, now that we're at the wandering around in the woods portion of the movie, and trust me, it's a big portion, it's time to get to the real star of the show. Fog. Lots and lots of fog. I swear to God, they must have scavenged every fog machine in the state of Utah for this movie. What percentage of the total budget do you think they spent on fog? 15? 30? 70? You know, I think all are possible answers here. They probably saw Evil Dead and were like, oh yeah, we could do that. But like, the fog is a step in the right direction. It's not the whole direction. There's only so much eeriness that the fog can provide in these brightly lit woods. Oh, and while our teens just wander aimlessly around in the woods for the next 30 minutes, I should pause and talk about the other subplot that's going on. So, the campground owner from earlier and this cop, they play chess together.
Winter. No, I don't think it started with a B.
Riveting. Oh my God! Oh my God! What? We only have an hour of footage. We need to pad out the running time. Did you try having our characters just wander around in the woods? Yeah, that gave us the hour. Oh fuck! Oh fuck! Oh fuck! Oh fuck! What if we add more characters to kill off, or maybe we get like a cool set piece. We already spent all our money on fog. Oh, shit. Wait. I got it. Let's just have the cop and the campground owner play board games. You're a fucking genius. All right, now who is ready for the character receives leg injury in cheap attempt to heighten tension of third act scene? Because I am. He tripped over the most visible branch I've ever seen. Anyway, this guy's like, I'd recognize that dead body anywhere. And the cabin's a 2-minute walk away.
Mike, if you know where the cabin is. I do. Okay, take Kathy, go there, get my truck, and for God's sakes, get help.
Wait, what are you doing? It's a 2-minute walk. There are two very able-bodied men here. Just carry his ass. How do you fuck up this CRL the IC the Kurilikitas? How do we fuck that up? Oh, and these two serve like zero purpose in the rest of the movie. So just know that he takes the ATV to get help and completely disappears, and she does nothing.
Wow, must be some wildlife.
He's right behind me, isn't he? All right, you guys ready for the only reason that anyone remembers this movie? Well. Who does this guy think he is? Grizzly? Also, this movie's super clever. They kept intercutting footage of the bear throughout to serve as the red herring, but it turns out it was the Berserker that was killing the whole time. Who could have seen this coming? It's not like Berserker is the title of the movie and you kept talking about Berserkers the whole time. I don't think anyone could have guessed this masterful twist. Okay, so Bear v Man fight is pretty cool, but this scene also contains my biggest pet peeve in all of horror. For some reason, horror movies act like when people get a leg injury, they're completely immobile. Come on, you're not paralyzed. You sprain your ankle. Just crawl away while they're distracted. Why are you staying there? Well, the bear wins and leaves, and then this fucking nerd decides, oh, now is the time I'm gonna start moving around. Fuck you, dude. Because of your lazy ass a few hours ago, you got your fucking friend mauled. All because you couldn't be bothered to fucking limp for 2 fucking minutes. Anyway, he makes it back to the cabin. The cop shows up and shoots the Berserker dead. And turns out it was a campground owner the whole time. So I guess if you really think about it, it really was a bear. Berserker, The Wall, is a movie that exists. With a movie called Berserker, you would expect some grisly kill scenes with bodies just being absolutely torn to shreds. But the extent of the gore in Berserker is somebody getting a bear glove with strawberry jam rubbed against them. And speaking of kills, we get 4 total, and 2 of them happen just after the opening credits. So for the remaining 80 minutes, we get 2 kills, which is way too little for a slasher of this type. Honestly, this is just a pretty forgettable entry in the genre. By 87, when this was released, they were way out of ideas. And even when they had ideas, like here with the werebear, they have no ideas beyond that. But as much as I'm shitting on this movie, I love that it exists. Regional horror films are one of my favorite subgenres, and it's not because they're good, because most of them aren't. It's because of the absolute love of filmmaking that shines through. I think the best way to show why I love regional horror so much is this little blurb on the website for Haunted Ween, another one of these films. More than 200 people worked on the film at different times. Without the help of the local community, it would have been impossible to make the movie. It's all a labor of love, see? The director, Jefferson Richard, may he rest in peace, he made a movie. And that's fucking awesome. I'll take this kind of bad movie over some Hollywood schlock anytime. And anyway, I think there might be something to Berserker. Here, let me put on appropriate attire. This is better. The 1987 film Berserker is a film about the dangers of toxic masculinity and homosexual repression. Our main character is Josh, a deeply closeted young man. Like, look, he's clearly gay. Like, he's so gay. And yet, due to some childhood trauma and societal pressures, he is forced to internalize who he is. Because of the fact that he is gay and he fears societal repercussions if he accepts who he is forced to overcompensate to prove his masculinity, making him prone to violent outbursts. We can see the personification of this masculinity in The Berserker, as a bear is probably an animal most associated with hypermasculinity. And, he's just a massive shirtless male. Women are the sole victims of these explosive lash-outs, and as we see with the editing of the sex scene, toxic masculinity forces men to view sex as a purely violent act, focusing on savaging women rather than the pleasure of both partners. Alright, that's enough of that. It's a fucking werebear. We're moving on. Wait, let's do the bear pun counter, and 10. It's a push? No shot for me. So, for our last film of the day, we're heading to the land down under. That's right, we're going international on this show to take a look at a 1988 Australian film called Kadaicha, aka Stones of Death. The best way that I can describe Kadaicha is that it's kind of an Australian ripoff of Nightmare on Elm Street, although there's a lot more to it than that. On this show, I'd like to save the weirdest one for last, so that should at least give you some indication of what's to come. We start with a dream sequence, and all the dream sequences follow the same formula. They enter a cave, see some Aboriginal tribesmen dancing, then disappear, approach this man in the center who turns and is revealed to be a skeleton, and then that man gives them a stone. Even though they're all essentially the same, I think they're all equally chilling. Here, look at this one from later in the film. This is after she knows that something is going on, and oh, look at this little move. And even though we all know the skeleton jump scare is coming, I think it's quite effective every time. Hey, so what's the deal with the stone?
That crystal is a Kadaicha stone.
Huh. So what?
Oh, what's that?
Hey, don't interrupt me, asshole. As I was saying, what is a Kadaicha stone?
In many Aboriginal tribes, it was the equivalent of pointing the bone. The Kadaicha man was a tribal magician. If he gave you one of these, it meant you'd broken tribal law and were condemned to die.
Die?
Yes, but I wouldn't worry. It's only if it were handed to you by the Kadaicha man himself.
Oh, fuck. Alright, let's meet our characters real quick. I should note, everyone kind of sucks in this movie. Here, this is our introduction to our main character.
Now, before we get up too much speed, I told Tracy we'd give her a lift to school.
You're the passenger. Why are you offering other people rides? Look at her boyfriend's face. Even he's pissed. Later that day, we get our requisite teenagers go to have sex scene, and this girl's boyfriend starts getting a little aggressive and then forces her to walk through the woods at night because he didn't want to wait for her to pick up something from her friend's house. Ladies, I would never do that to you. Before we get to the first death scene, because obviously it's about to happen, we got a teenager who got a Kadaicha stone walking alone at night through the woods, let me finish breaking down everybody. So this is our protagonist. This is one of those movies where there isn't a clear-cut main character, and she pretty much just becomes the main character. Character traits, she has a boyfriend, and her dad's an asshole real estate developer. That's important later. If it seems like I'm having trouble talking about these characters, that's because the movie does too. Like, people kind of just show up and leave the movie willy-nilly. Take the first victim's asshole boyfriend as an example. After her death, we get this scene.
Friday night after the dance, we'll go somewhere. I promise.
So we're led to believe that he's going to be a recurring character, ready to fight for justice for his girlfriend, even though all this happened because he sucks. But then the next time he does anything is in the last 10 minutes of the movie. We have the teacher, who we already saw. She delivers a ton of exposition and then disappears from the movie entirely. Also, the teens are quite hard to keep track of because they all have no real traits. It's especially hard for the boyfriend characters because they all kind of look the same, so I don't know who's who. Alright, let's go back to what we're all here for. The killing of a teenage girl. Wow, 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 wow. Again, like the dream sequences, I think the kills are all pretty alright. I made fun of Mongrel for doing the stupid POV thing, which this does too, but I think the quick cutting, supernatural elements, and sound effects put this one over the top. And I wonder, what does the stone have to do with all this?
What was that about a stone?
Where did you come from? Who are you? Anyway, he has a stone, so we all know what's coming. But first, we have some exposition to deliver.
Look, the stones aren't such a mystery, not when you consider where you live.
How do you mean?
Well, your street is the site of an old Aboriginal burial ground.
Oh, so I guess this is the Australian equivalent to the ancient Indian burial ground cliche? Oh, and if you're hoping that the greedy land developer who the film has spent so much time proving he's an asshole gets some comeuppance later, you would be wrong for some reason. So they do some research in the library about the development. They see a picture of this guy. He's important later. Oh yeah, and since this guy's a loser nerd, he's at the library too. Hey, why is the school allowing these kids to stay overnight in this place? Oh, and back to everyone sucking in this movie, the boyfriend gives a ride to the protagonist and this girl, but instead of dropping her off at her house, he drops this girl at his girlfriend's house, and then she walks home. This is the same neighborhood where the girl was killed yesterday, and they never caught the dog.
I'll see you tomorrow.
They both live in the same neighborhood. Why can't you be bothered to drive down the street a little bit so that you can make sure she gets home safe? A girl was literally killed here last night. What? Oh, and the guy from the newspaper shows up. His name's Billy Nigel. He's just there to be ominous, and then he leaves. All right, it's time to watch Nerdy Boy die. Like I said before, the attack scenes are pretty good in this. We get some cool, tiny POV shots, because he gets attacked by a spider this time. But then it gets kind of lame, like he's for some reason super interested in a spider being in the lampshade. Come on, you live in Australia. I'm led to believe this is just a regular occurrence. And then he has to take his glasses off and put his head at the exact angle to where the spider can jump out and sink its fangs into his eye. I mean, if he didn't do all that, we wouldn't have a movie, right? So we have a spider and a dog killing people. Hopefully we can get an explanation. Oh, thank God, the exposition lady's back. Sexism? In this conversation, we learn that the land that the neighborhood was built on is said to be cursed after an Aboriginal tribe was massacred by white settlers. I'm going to explain right now what's happening. The kids learn a little later from Billy Nigel, but basically what's going on is an Aboriginal shaman is targeting teenagers because that was the age of the lot of the tribesmen that were murdered, and the shaman can shapeshift into these various animals to attack them. Again, the kids don't know this quite yet, but what they do know is that 2 of their friends who have gotten these stones have been killed by animals within the week. So now it's this girl's turn with the stone. So if I got this stone and I was aware that the 2 people who got the stone before me were killed by animals, I would stay inside and try my hardest to avoid.
Listen, I vote we get our minds off all this. Let's go down the river for a swim.
Sounds good to me.
What? Surely this'll turn out well. Oh fuck, who could have seen this one coming? Well, now our protagonist has a stone. Oh no, not I don't know her name. So basically a lot of padding just happens before we get to the final scene. The kids talk to Billy Nigel, who at first doesn't want to help them, but changes his mind later. We get some cool surrealism. That's something different, at least. As the film starts to shape up for the final showdown, I think now is an appropriate time to discuss the more political aspects of the movie. And don't come at me saying, Andrew, why do we have to get political all of a sudden? Listen, everything is political. I'm literally talking about an art form. Art. One of the most political things in existence. And regardless of all that, this movie is overtly political, so I don't really know why I have to say all this. Okay, so Severin Films, which is the company who released this movie on Blu-ray, describes Kadaicha as an admission of national guilt. And yeah, I think it's commendable to at least acknowledge the horrific treatment of the Aboriginal population, but the film doesn't do very much beyond that. To better illustrate my problems with the film's political stance, we're going to delve deep into the history of the Aboriginal oppression in Australia. Now, I'm not a historian, nor do I live in Australia, but I can read documents online, so who's the real expert? I should note, obviously, I cannot cover every last detail on this subject, so I'll try my hardest to condense it without trivializing it. Before Europeans arrived in 1788, it is estimated that there were about 750,000 Aboriginal tribesmen living in Australia. By 1900, that number would fall to 93,000. Much like the Native American populations of the United States, Aboriginals could not fight the diseases that the Europeans brought with them. As British Marine officer David Collins writes, "At that time, a native was living with us, and on our taking him down to the harbor to look for his former companions, those who witnessed his expression in agony can never forget either. He looked anxiously around him in the different coves we visited. Not a vestige on the sand was to be found of human foot. The excavations in the rocks were filled with the putrid bodies of those who had fallen victims to the disorder. Not a living person was anywhere to be met with. It seemed as if, flying from the contagion, they had left the dead to bury the dead. He lifted up his hands and eyes in silent agony for some time. At last he exclaimed, 'All dead,' and then hung his head in mournful silence, which he preserved during the remainder of our excursion. Some days after, he learned that few of his companions who survived had fled up the harbor to avoid the pestilence that so dreadfully raged. His fate has already been mentioned. He fell a victim to his own humanity when Burung, Nanbare, and others were brought into the town covered with the eruptions of the disorder. On visiting Broken Bay, we found that it had not confined its effects to Port Jackson, for in many places our path was covered with skeletons, and the same spectacles were to be met with in the hollows of most of the rocks of that harbor. Disease wasn't the only threat to the indigenous populations. The racist colonists played a large role as well. The following quote comes from John Paulding, the first Catholic archbishop in Sydney. I have myself heard a man, educated, and a large proprietor of sheep and cattle, maintain that there is no more harm in shooting a native than in shooting a wild dog. I have heard it maintained by others that it is the course of providence that blacks should disappear before the white, and the sooner the process was carried out, the better, for all parties. I fear such opinions prevail to a great extent. Very recently, in the presence of two clergymen, a man of education narrated, as a good thing, that he had been one of a party who had pursued the blacks, in consequence for cattle being rushed by them, and that he was sure that they shot upwards of 100. When expostulated with, he maintained that there was nothing wrong in it, that it was preposterous to suppose they had souls. In this opinion, he was joined by another educated person present. Aboriginal tribes fought guerrilla wars against the colonizers, but they could not maintain the fight. Smallpox killed over half the population, making it much easier for Europeans to clear their land for settlements and farms. Australia gained independence in 1901, and by this point the Aboriginals were already forced onto missions and reserves. They were not mentioned in the Constitution, they could not vote, and were not counted in the census. Human rights groups like the Aborigines Protection Society urged the new Australian government to adopt a comprehensive and uniform native policy to benefit their Aboriginal people. These pleas fell on deaf ears. Aboriginal children were forcibly removed from their homes. These children, called the stolen generation, were often forced to work as servants for white families and were brutally punished if they tried to hold on to their culture. With the publication of the Bringing Them Home report in 1997, the practice would rightfully be labeled an act of genocide. As a child recounts, so the next thing I remember was that they took us from there and we went to the hospital, and I kept asking because the children were screaming and the little brothers and sisters were just babies, of course, and I couldn't move. They were all around me, around my neck and legs, yelling and screaming. I was all upset and I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know where we were going. I just thought, well, they're police. They must know what they're doing. I suppose I've got to go with them. They're taking me to see Mom. You know, this is what I honestly thought. They kept us in hospital for 3 days, and I kept asking, when are we going to see Mom? And no one told us at this time. And I think on the 3rd or 4th day, they piled us in the car, and I said, where are we going? And they said, we are going to see your mother. But then we turned left to go to the airport, and I got a bit panicky about where we were going. They got hold of me, you know what I mean, and I got a little baby in my arms, and they put us on the plane, and they still told us we were going to see Mom, so I thought she must be wherever they're taking us. Here's another quote, showing the perspective of the white families. I remember another friend of mine in St. Ives. She wanted to adopt a little Aboriginal baby, and she was telling me when she got this little one that she went out to the mission, and she said she wanted a little baby boy. The mission manager said, Mrs. J has a couple of boys already. We'll take her third one. So they adopted that child. If Mrs. J would have objected, she said the welfare officer says, well, if you don't give us that child, we'll take the other two. In enters William Cooper, an Aboriginal man from the Yorta Yorta tribe, whose political activism represented Aboriginal communities who, notably, were unable to receive government assistance during both the major droughts of the 20s and the Great Depression of the 30s. In 1933, he, along with other exiles, co-founded the Australian Aborigines League, which aimed to lobby the Australian government on behalf of the Aboriginal people. Despite his intensive efforts in seeking parliamentary representation, the Australian Commonwealth refused to seek action. In 1938, Cooper and the League created a day of mourning on the 26th of January to bring attention to the suffering of his people. Later that year, Kristallnacht, or the Night of Broken Glass, which was a coordinated wave of anti-Semitic violence, occurred in Nazi Germany. William Cooper and the AAL became the first to protest against this treatment of the Jewish community, organizing a march on the German embassy in Australia. His efforts in fighting for human rights for those around the globe have inspired generations of Aboriginal activists. It took until 1967 for Aboriginal Australians to receive civil rights. Over 90% of Australian voters voted yes in the referendum. I guess that 9% wanted to do a racism. It happens to the best of us. It is undeniably due to the tireless efforts of William Cooper and other Aboriginal rights activists that such a referendum took place. However, the fight isn't over. Due to these horrific acts, the Aboriginal population today faces much higher rates of drug addiction, poverty, infant mortality, incarceration, and just about any other negative metric. In 2023, a referendum to guarantee an Indigenous voice in the country's parliament lost the vote. And this is where I have major problems with Kadaicha. While I guess it's good to at least acknowledge that what happened to native populations is bad, the film doesn't do much beyond that. At the end of the day, the message of Kadaicha is, don't build on sacred ground. The greedy land developer doesn't even learn this message because he realizes the suffering he is causing the indigenous population, but instead because, oh, my daughter almost got hurt there. And he doesn't even die. Spoilers, which I would have revealed like 5 minutes after this sentence anyway, but whatever. The shaman is bad. Billy Nigel is good. At the end of the movie, Billy Nigel defeats the shaman, and all is well again. Except it isn't. The core problem is still a major issue. I don't think a movie should be considered progressive just because it points out, hey, that was bad, right? Here, take this Canadian movie called Clear Cut as an example. In it, we follow a white lawyer representing a native population in their fight against a logging company encroaching on their land. The lawyer meets an indigenous activist named Arthur, and despite the lawyer claiming that he's there to help his people, it soon becomes clear, cut, that his sympathies don't exactly lie in the right place. What makes the movie so interesting, though, is the character of Arthur. The thing is, he's what many would consider a bad person. He's prone to violence, dismissive of others, and hell, he tortures multiple people. But at the end of the day, you understand him. You realize that the rampant oppression of his people is what created this. The suffering of the two men he tortures pales in comparison to that of his tribe. And I think that's the correct way to go about these issues. Listen, violence is rarely justifiable, but it's often understandable. Kadaicha needs to do more to connect the suffering of generations to the teens. We do get this.
Early last century, a group of young black people, they'd have been about your age, were attacked by a gang of bushrangers. They were all killed. The girls were raped first. When the tribe found the bodies, they had no way of knowing who was responsible, so they buried them on sacred ground, where your street is now. And then in understandable anger, they attacked a nearby white settlement. The next day, whites from all over the country banded together in an armed hunting party, probably including the bushrangers who'd started the trouble in the first place. They hunted the tribe down and shot dead every last man, woman, and child.
But I think this is way too simplified an explanation to even begin to describe the horrors. The shaman shouldn't be strictly evil. Instead, he should represent what happens when a government oppresses its people. The movie shouldn't wrap up with a everything is fine here now that we stop building on sacred ground. It should assert that horrific events have occurred and will occur until something changes. Being given full civil rights is not enough. The centuries of oppression is still felt. It's like here in the US where some fucking idiots try to claim that everyone is equal because on paper everyone is equal, ignoring how the lack of reparations and decades of redlining have affected just the black communities today. And this isn't even mentioning the still rampant voter suppression that many red states enact, because Republicans know that the less people who vote, the more likely they are to win. Guys, I know I'm probably preaching to the choir right now, but Republicans don't give a fuck about safe elections. Ignoring the fact that there's been literally zero evidence of any real amount of election fraud, their supposed voter ID laws are just a form of poll taxes aimed at disenfranchising voters. But Andrew, other countries have voter ID laws. Okay, but the other countries have a low barrier to entry, and people are sent these documents and registered automatically. The fucking government doesn't do shit here. Republicans hate democracy. They openly spit on it. And all these fucking greedy, power-hungry fucks want is another fucking... Okay, I'm sorry for that little rant there. There's just nothing worse than the Republican Party. Bottom line, Kadaicha, do better. All right, let's finish this off here. So Billy Nigel takes this guy with him. This is the first victim's boyfriend, in case you forgot, because he literally has not been in the movie for the last hour. But anyway, Billy Nigel takes him to the cave that's in the dream sequences. I don't know exactly why he does this, because the kid isn't useful at all. And while this is going on, the shaman possesses the boyfriend and gives him the worst punishment of all. forcing him to walk. Shaman, why can't he drive? How devilishly inconvenient. So we're setting up a showdown at the house. Possessed boyfriend versus nameless protagonist and asshole father. Truly a battle for the ages. The boyfriend locks the father out first, and then he goes inside, and she thinks it's her boyfriend, so she gives him a nice hug. Okay, this might be time to strike. You're possessed. Her guard is down. Come on. Oh no, he waits until she realizes he's possessed to actually do something. Because, if my end goal was to kill somebody who has their guard down, I would wait to strike until they are 100% sure I'm trying to kill them. Doing otherwise, that would just be rude. While Billy Nigel works his magic over in the cave, her dad hears Johnny's his way through the door, and the shaman shows just how terrible he is at trying to kill people. You did so well as the animals. Why do you suck at doing this as a human? Like you were human once. Why is this so difficult? Okay, so you got a knife. She's got her back to you. Wait, what are you doing? He also apparently has super strength because he ends up strangling both the protagonist and her dad at the same time. But Billy Nigel clutches up and puts a stop to this showcase of incompetence. And thank God that villain has stopped. If he gave another 3 hours, he might have eventually ended up killing someone. So, Kadaicha. Is it a slasher? I would consider it a supernatural slasher, but if someone were to disagree, I wouldn't waste time arguing with them. It's at least close enough to be covered on this show. Now, a better question is Kadaicha a good movie? No. This movie has amazing potential. The premise is ancient shaman possesses animals to kill teenagers. That sounds fucking cool. Could you imagine if the Italians worked on this type of thing? Ignoring the political aspects. Look at some Italian horror real quick.
Please open the door.
Come on, just imagine the awesome shit they could come up with. But instead, the bland Australians got to it, causing it just to be another forgotten entry in late 80s horror. No amount of halfway decent attack scenes and dream sequences can save 90% boring, and I'm left to wonder, are the attack sequences actually good, or is the rest of the movie just so uneventful that I welcome the changes when they happen? Characters are non-existent, the ending is unsatisfying, and worst of all, it doesn't explore the whole Aboriginal angle as much as I think it should. Alright, well, that concludes episode 1 of the slash-a-thon. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sure I'll get to some movies I actually like eventually, but for now, this'll do. Next time on this show, we're heading to summer camp, and I'm sure you guys will be eagerly awaiting that, but until then, I am the titular depressed cinephile, and I'm gonna go check out that noise real quick. Oh, hey, man. Come on, we were just messing around. Come on. Oh. Well, that concludes episode 1 of the slash-a-thon. I will see you. I'll see you next time.